and welcome to what is, I guess you'd say, the pilot episode of my brand new podcast here, Chronicles of War. I am Alex, and today I'm just going to be giving a brief explanation of what's going on with this podcast. So, what's going to happen is every week I'm going to release an episode of this, and it's going to be about either a military history story, such as like a battle, or some major like campaign or operation, or it's going to be going into the details of a specific soldier or group of soldiers. Now, I don't currently actually know all this stuff beforehand. I will be doing extensive research into this and do my best to not provide any false information, because I want this to be as true to the story as possible, to honor the people in these stories the way they should be. Now, this isn't all going to be necessarily American military history. While it will mostly be, because that is the topic that I am mainly into in terms of military history, depending on what the story is about, I might tell stories from some other countries. Like I might, for example, mention possibly like Finland in the Winter War in a future episode maybe. I don't know. We'll see about that later. But for the most part, though, they probably will be American history, military history. Now, you might be wondering, why am I the one who's telling you this stuff? Where's my credibility in this? Well, start off, I am a history minor. And I know you might be, well, why not history major doing this then? I don't want a double major, but anyway, I have been into military history for a long time. I think the very first time I picked up a book about military history, I was in 3rd grade, and it was a book about Pearl Harbor. I hadn't heard about Pearl Harbor. I'm like, what's this? This looks interesting, because I was a very avid reader in elementary school. Still am. But anyway, I picked up that book. That was in 3rd grade, keep in mind. I'm now a freshman in college, and I haven't stopped learning about military history. Now, in terms of military history, though, I guess you'd technically say area of expertise is in World War II. Because, as you can probably tell, that book about Pearl Harbor, I've been involved in World War II for the most part. Started at a young age for that. Also helped that my great-grandpa was a World War II veteran. So I'd go over to his house to hear some of his stories, although wouldn't really tell me much at the time when I was asking him. But I've just been reading and reading about everything I can learn about military history. My school's library, my school was elementary all the way to high school, but we had one shared library. I read every single nonfiction book I could find about military history that the library had at the time. Now, unfortunately, they no longer have any of those books since the library got remodeled. But I read them all. Books on World War I, World War II, Korea, Vietnam. There was even one on the Gulf War. Now, these books, I did not read the same amount of books on each different topic of war. Some wars I researched a lot more than others. Like I said previously, World War II is my main area of expertise when it comes to military history, but still doesn't stop me from learning other wars because I'm still interested in them. Like I'd say other than World War II, the next most knowledgeable topic I am on when it comes to major wars is World War One. Because now, sure, yeah, you might be like, oh, it's because other world war. I mean, why wouldn't it be a big one? Well, ironically enough, I also have family history from World War One as well. Apparently, my great great grandpa was in World War One as well. Was cavalry, which I learned from my grandma, which I found pretty interesting. Because I mean, World War One. That's when cavalry was essentially just monitored as just obsolete. But as you can clearly tell, there at least was some cavalry units still. I only know this even because we actually had a picture. I don't know if it was a painting or what, but it was a picture we had on our wall at my house. That was his cavalry unit he was in, which I find really cool because, like, I mean, historic photos, whether it's paintings or actual photographs, they're extremely interesting because they can let you like see into that time frame. But anyway, military history. I know stuff. I will not say I'm an expert at all. Disclaimer: I'm not. I am in no way saying that I am 100% an expert. Do I know these topics better than most people? I mean, I'd assume so, because I don't think most people are checking out chapter books about World War II from their school library in like fifth grade, but I could be wrong. I don't know fifth graders. But anyway, military history is just something I'm very passionate about. I've also know some things about like not just the wars, but like some like in between periods of wars. Like I know one of the planned events I have is an event that takes place between. It's sometime after Vietnam, I know, but it's in like the 80s. So it's not really a war going on at the time it takes place, that at least not that America is heavily involved in. But it's still an event in military history, and I'm going to talk about it. Now, I'm also not going to just focus on like major events in military history. Like, sure, I could focus on major battles and major figures, like do one on General Patton in World War II. That's not really what I'm going for. Now, sure, I will be making some videos about, not videos, some podcast episodes about these more major figures and events. But I want to also talk about some of the lesser known characters, the lesser known people involved, because their stories matter as well. And forgetting those stories is essentially forgetting them because, I mean, at least when we're talking to like World War II, for example, a lot of those veterans aren't around anymore. I know because, like, for example, my great grandpa, he passed away 2 years ago now at this point, I believe. And even at 99, and even then, he wasn't completely remembering a lot of his experiences from the war. So this is pretty much the only ways we can remember some of their stories is by telling them. And to me, that's the most important part about military history. It's not living on in the glory, but instead it's carrying on the memories. That's what's important to me about it. For example, in another episode I've got planned to do, I'm going to be telling about a veteran from here in Iowa who, ironically enough, his daughter was my grandma's classmate. And that's actually how I found out about him. Because it turns out the public library actually has a book about him. I would have never known about that at all if I hadn't been so involved into military history, especially World War II, that my grandma mentioned him to me. And it's really an amazing story. And I can't wait to I personally cannot wait to be able to share this story with all of you, because it's really interesting and helps pass on the memory as well. Because when I did hear about him, I would fairly recently at the time gotten really into like military history, because like I'd been semi into it before, but it was at the point towards then when I really took the swan dive into it. And I'm just glad about it, and I've not regretted it. Even the what I'm planning for the next episode, it's an event that I purely heard about by chance. It was completely random. I was reading something else when I heard a reference to this event. I'm not spoiling it for you. You're going to have to wait till the next episode for this. But I was reading this, and then I see this reference to it. So I'm like, oh, this sounds really interesting. Like, I've never heard of anything like this happening at all. So what did I do? I went and learned more about it. And here we are. I'm doing this, and next episode's going to be about it. So that's just what I think about military history, or just history in general, really. If you find something that's interesting to you, you just go for it. And yeah, you just go for it. Because that's what I did, and here I am doing this podcast. That's just how I came up with doing this, is just my love of military history and my want to just share my knowledge with others, because, as I said previously, the memories of these soldiers, these events, should not be forgotten. I don't want that to happen, because forgetting them would mean them essentially being lost, their stories and such. Just forgetting them is just dishonoring them, I feel like. But yeah, I'm just so excited to be able to actually do this, because I mean, I actually wanted to do a podcast for the longest time, actually, about military history. And then when I got the opportunity to actually do this, now that I'm in college, was ecstatic about it, because, I mean, like I said, I've wanted to do this before. Because, while sure, you can learn about military history through books, in this day and age, everything's, it's becoming digital and stuff, and not a lot of people read anymore. Like, I know people who can't even get through a single book within a year. And people just pay attention more to, like, audio and stuff, or videos. And while I'm not videoing this, I am doing this through audio, meaning it can still be heard. And the best part about this is even when eventually, if it ever happens, that we no longer use paper books or anything like that, these stories will still be around, because I'm going to be telling them via audio online. And that's something I think is really special about this. But yeah, that's pretty much just explanation. So I do it for this podcast. Do in fact have X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, account for it. I do have an account for it because what I want to do is I want some like community engagement for it. Like, I want to know like stories you want to learn about or you want me to tell. Because I'm gonna be honest, I don't know all. I don't just instantly know every story that exists about this type of stuff. I want to know more. So, what you can do, we do have an account. It's at Chronicles OFF44. That is the official account for it. I'm going to be posting the announcement of this intro on there, and under that, if you have any ideas for events you might like me to cover in the future, you can leave them there. Or in any other future podcast episodes I do, you can give me ideas and comments on there. Or just, share any like details, like say you've got a family member who was involved in one of the events I talked about, or a family member that met a person I might be talking about. Because I'd love to know that type of stuff. And it just makes the history even more enriched, I guess. I know, I'm not an English major. I don't do words. As my high school math teacher used to say, words is hard. Anyway, I think that's going to be it for our pilot episode. Thank you all for listening, and I'll see you guys when I won't see you actually. You'll be sure to tune into the next episode.